The Catharn warship hung in the darkness of space like a predator waiting to strike. It was massive, easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest orbital station. Its hull was black and covered with sharp angles that caught the starlight. Along its sides, weapon ports glowed with a menacing red light. Behind it, dozens more warships waited in formation. Blocking out the stars, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the shuttle bay of her small diplomatic vessel and looked at the Karn flagship. She took a slow breath. Her hands were steady. She had prepared for this moment for 3 weeks, ever since the Catharn fleet had appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. "Ambassador, are you certain about this?" Captain Marcus Webb's voice came through her earpiece. He was aboard the ESN Persistence, humanity's largest warship, waiting several thousand kilometers away with the rest of Earth's defense fleet. "I'm certain, Captain," Sarah replied quietly. "Someone has to talk to them. Someone has to buy us time. Just remember what we discussed. Stay calm, observe everything, and get back here safely." Sarah smiled slightly. "I always do, Marcus." Her shuttle detached from the diplomatic ship and moved toward the Catharn flagship. The closer she got, the more massive the alien vessel became. It filled her entire view screen. She could see the texture of its armor, plating, the glow of its engines, the shapes of weapons that could probably destroy her shuttle with a single shot. The shuttle's computer beeped. "Docking permission granted," it announced in a flat voice. Sarah's shuttle entered a dark opening in the Catharn ship's hull. The bay inside was enormous and empty, except for rows of smaller fighter craft along the walls. Everything was designed to look threatening. Even the lighting was harsh and red, casting sharp shadows everywhere. When Sarah stepped out of her shuttle, she was immediately surrounded by Catharn warriors. They were tall, nearly 3 meters high, with powerful bodies covered in dark scales. Their faces were angular, with sharp teeth visible even when their mouths were closed. Their eyes were yellow and slitted like a reptile's. Each warrior carried weapons that hummed with energy. Sarah kept her expression calm and neutral. She had studied the Catharn for weeks. She knew they valued strength and dominance. They respected size and power. They hunted other species across the galaxy, taking what they wanted through force and intimidation. They thought humans were weak. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth," she said clearly. "I'm here to speak with War Chief Vectar." The warriors said nothing. They simply formed a corridor and gestured for her to walk. Sarah moved forward with confident steps. She noticed everything as she walked: the scratches on the walls from weapon impacts, the smell of oil and ozone in the air, the way the Catharn warriors walked with the rolling gait of natural hunters, the subtle signs of wear on their armor that told her they had seen many battles. They led her through dark corridors to a massive chamber. It was clearly designed to intimidate visitors. The ceiling stretched high above, lost in shadow. Holographic displays showed maps of conquered worlds. Trophies from defeated species hung on the walls. And at the far end, on a raised platform, sat War Chief Vectar. He was larger than the other Catharn, with darker scales and scars across his face and arms. His eyes locked onto Sarah as she approached. She could feel the weight of his stare, the predatory focus that said he saw her as something small and helpless. Sarah walked forward until she stood at the base of his platform. She did not kneel. She did not bow. She simply met his gaze and waited. "You are the human ambassador," Vectar said. His voice was deep and harsh, like rocks grinding together. "You are smaller than I expected." "Size isn't everything, War Chief," Sarah replied calmly. Several Catharn warriors around the room made hissing sounds. It took Sarah a moment to realize they were laughing. Vectar leaned forward. "Your species received my message 3 weeks ago. You were told to surrender your world, to accept Catharn rule, to submit to the natural order of the galaxy." He paused. "Yet here you stand, and your world has not surrendered. Why?" "Because humanity wishes to understand the terms of your offer," Sarah said. "We believe in diplomacy, in discussion, in finding peaceful solutions." "Diplomacy," Vectar repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Peace," These are words that weak species use when they cannot fight, when they know they will lose. He stood up, his full height towering over Sarah. The Catharn have conquered 400 worlds. We have broken species stronger and larger than yours. We are apex predators. You are prey. This is the natural order. Sarah remained still. Her heart was beating fast, but her training kept her voice steady. And if we refuse your offer? Then we will take your world by force, Vectar said simply. Your orbital stations will be destroyed. Your cities will burn. Your people will scatter like frightened animals. This is not a negotiation. Human, this is a warning. The only warning you will receive. Sarah was quiet for a moment. She appeared to be considering his words. In reality, she was counting the number of guards in the room, noting the positions of weapons, observing how the Catharn held themselves, how they moved, how they thought. I understand, War Chief, she finally said. You've made your position very clear. But surely you can understand that such an important decision requires discussion among our leaders. Our governments need time to consider your offer. Time? Vectar laughed, a harsh barking sound. You want time to prepare your defenses, to call for help that will not come, to plan strategies that will not work. He sat back down. Very well. The Catharn are not unreasonable. We are strong enough to grant mercy to the weak. You have 72 hours, 3 of your Earth days. After that, if you have not surrendered, we will attack. Thank you, War Chief, Sarah said. She did not point out that 72 hours was exactly what humanity's military commanders had asked for. She had gotten what she came for. Do not thank me yet, human, Vectar said. His eyes gleamed. I have seen thousands of species stand where you stand now. They all made the same choice in the end. They all chose to kneel rather than die. Your people will too. You will see. Sarah met his gaze without fear. Something in her expression made Vectar pause. For just a moment, he saw something in this small human's eyes that he did not expect. Not fear. Not desperation. Something else. Something patient and calculating. War Chief, Sarah said quietly. You misunderstand something fundamental about my species. We will consider your offer carefully. Very carefully. She smiled slightly. It was not a frightened smile. It was not a diplomatic smile. It was something else entirely. Something that made the hair on the back of Vectar's neck stand up. Though he did not understand why. We will give you our answer in 72 hours, Sarah continued. I promise you will remember it. She turned and walked back toward the exit. The Catharn warriors parted to let her pass. Vectar watched her go. That strange feeling still prickling at his instincts. She is afraid, one of his officers said. She hides it well, but all prey fear us. Vectar said nothing. He had hunted across hundreds of worlds. He had seen fear in 1,000 different species. What he had seen in that human's eyes was not fear. He just did not know what it was yet. Sarah's shuttle docked with the ESN Persistence exactly 43 minutes after leaving the Catharn flagship. Captain Marcus Webb was waiting for her in the docking bay with 3 other senior officers. The moment Sarah stepped out, Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders despite her calm expression. How bad is it? He asked. As bad as we expected, Sarah replied. They're completely confident. Vectar believes we'll surrender once we see their full power. He thinks diplomacy means weakness. Do they know about our preparations? Sarah shook her head. They're watching our communications. But they interpret everything through their own lens. They think we're panicking. They don't understand that we're analyzing. Marcus gestured toward the corridor. The council is waiting. Everyone who needs to know is there. The council is waiting. The council is waiting. The council is waiting. Everyone who needs to know is there. They walked through the ship's corridors to the command center. The Persistence was humanity's pride. Built over 15 years in orbit. It was not the biggest ship in space, but it was the most advanced Earth had ever created. Inside the command center, holographic displays showed Earth's entire defense fleet. 23 warships, 46 support vessels, hundreds of fighter craft. Against the Catharn's massive armada, it looked pitifully small. Admiral James Rodriguez stood at the center console. Around him were military commanders from every Earth nation, scientific advisors, and political leaders connected through secure video links. Every face was serious. "Ambassador Chen," the Admiral said. "Report." Sarah moved to the display table and activated her recorded observations. "The Catharn are exactly what our intelligence suggested. Pure predators. They've built their entire culture around dominance and intimidation. They've conquered 400 worlds using the same strategy every time. Overwhelming force, psychological warfare. They appear, they threaten, and species surrender before the fighting even starts." "And if species don't surrender?" someone asked. "Then the Catharn destroy them quickly and move on." But here's the important part. They've never faced prolonged resistance. Every battle in their history has been decided in days, sometimes hours. They're ambush predators. Fast, powerful strikes designed to break enemy morale immediately. Marcus stepped forward. "Which means they have a weakness." Sarah nodded. "They don't know how to fight an enemy that won't break. An enemy that can endure. An enemy that plans and adapts." Admiral Rodriguez pulled up a three-dimensional map of the solar system. "We've been preparing for 3 weeks. Every evacuation center is ready. Every civilian station has emergency protocols. Our military assets are positioned. Now, we need to decide. Do we surrender? Or do we fight?" The room was silent for a moment. Then General Amara Okonkwo from the African Union spoke. "Admiral, with respect, we all know the answer. Humanity has never surrendered to bullies. We won't start now, even if it means casualties?" Admiral Rodriguez asked quietly. "Even if it means we might lose? We might lose if we fight," General Okonkwo replied. "But we will definitely lose if we surrender. The Catharn will take everything. Our freedom, our future, our dignity. That's not survival. That's just a slower death." Other voices joined in agreement. One by one, every leader in the room committed to resistance. Admiral Rodriguez looked around at them all, then nodded slowly. "Then we fight," he said. "Captain Webb, present your tactical analysis." Marcus activated the display. Beside the current map, another image appeared. It was ancient, from Earth's prehistoric past. It showed early humans hunting a massive mammoth across an open plain. "This is what we are," Marcus said quietly. "Our ancestors were not the biggest predators on Earth, not the strongest, not the fastest, but they became the most successful hunters in Earth's history. Do you know how?" He zoomed in on the image. "Persistence, strategy, cooperation. Our ancestors would track prey for days. They would chase animals until those animals collapsed from exhaustion. They would work in groups, communicating across distances, coordinating their movements. They would study their prey's behavior and predict what it would do next. They never gave up. They never stopped. They just kept coming." Marcus changed the display to show the Catharn fleet. The Catharn are ambush predators. They're built for short, violent confrontations. But humans? We evolved as endurance hunters. We can keep going when others need to rest. We can think while we fight. We can adapt our tactics in real time. And most importantly, we work together better than any species in this galaxy has ever seen. Dr. Sarah Kim from the Scientific Division spoke up. "Captain Webb is correct. I've analyzed the Catharn battle records. They fight in waves with rest periods between engagements. They expect their enemies to do the same. But human crews can operate in shifts. We can maintain pressure continuously. They've never experienced that." "There's more," Marcus continued. "The Catharn rely heavily on intimidation and expected behavior. They have standard tactics they use against every enemy. But humans are pattern recognizers. We're already tracking their movements, analyzing their strategies. By the time they attack, we'll know how they think. To market, We'll know how they think. Admiral Rodriguez studied the displays. You're proposing we don't try to match their strength. You're proposing we outlast them. Exactly, Marcus said. We hit and retreat. We make them chase us. We never let them rest. We use our knowledge of the solar system against them. We make them fight on our terms, in our territory, using our strengths. It's still a huge risk, someone pointed out. They have more ships, more weapons, more experience. But they don't have what we have, Sarah said firmly. They don't have 3 weeks of studying them. They don't have the home advantage, and they don't have the one thing that makes humanity special. We remember what we were. We remember that we're the species that walked out of Africa and conquered an entire planet, not through strength, but through persistence and intelligence. She pulled up another display. I'm going back to the Catharn flagship in 72 hours to deliver our answer. While I'm gone, I want everyone to study the data we collected. Watch how they move, how they think, how they react. The Catharn see themselves as hunters. Let's teach them what it means to be hunted by humans. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. Strategies were refined. Resources were allocated. Evacuation schedules were confirmed. Every person in that room knew the next few days would determine humanity's future. When it finally ended, Marcus found Sarah looking out a viewport at Earth below. The planet was beautiful, blue and white and green against the black of space. Do you really think we can do this? Marcus asked quietly. Sarah was silent for a moment. The Catharn made a mistake. They think our diplomacy means we're weak. They think our caution means we're afraid. They don't understand that we were just buying time. Time to observe, time to learn, time to remember what we are. She turned to look at Marcus. They're about to discover something 400 other species never lived long enough to teach them. Humans are not prey. We never were. Our ancestors didn't become Earth's apex predator by being the strongest. They did it by being the smartest, the most persistent, and the most coordinated hunters that ever existed. And now they're coming for us, Marcus said. Sarah's expression was calm but determined. No, Marcus. In 72 hours, when I deliver our answer, the hunt begins. And this time, we're not the prey, we're the hunters. The Catharn just don't know it yet. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation. On its surface, billions of humans prepared for war. Not as victims, not as prey, as hunters who remembered their ancient skills. 72 hours passed quickly. Sarah Chen returned to the Catharn flagship exactly on schedule. This time, War Chief Vectar did not make her wait. He was eager to hear humanity's surrender. Sarah stood before him in the same great chamber. The Catharn warriors around the room watched her with hungry anticipation. They expected fear. They expected begging. They had seen it 1,000 times before. War Chief Vectar, Sarah said clearly, humanity has considered your offer carefully. We have discussed it at the highest levels of our government. We have examined every aspect of your proposal, and, Vectar leaned forward, already knowing the answer. They always surrendered. We decline, Sarah said simply. The chamber went silent. Vectar stared at her, certain he had misheard. You decline? Yes, Earth will not surrender. We will defend our home and our freedom. This is humanity's final answer. Vectar stood up slowly. His expression shifted from surprise to anger. You choose death then. Your species chooses extinction over wisdom. No, Sarah replied calmly. We choose to stand. And War Chief, I want you to understand something before this begins. You have studied many species, but you have not studied humans carefully enough. You made assumptions. Those assumptions will cost you. She pulled out a small data device and placed it on the floor between them. This contains information about human history, about how we evolved, about what we are. I suggest you watch it. Study your prey carefully, War Chief. You might learn something important. Before Vectar could respond, Sarah turned and walked away. The Catharn warriors moved to stop her, but Vectar waved them back. He was too angry to care about one small human. She would die with the rest of her species soon enough. "Prepare the fleet," Vectar commanded. "We attack in 1 hour. Show these humans what happens to those who defy the Catharn." Sarah's shuttle left the flagship and raced back toward the Persistence. The moment she was aboard, Marcus met her. "It's done," she said. "They'll attack within the hour." "Then we're ready," Marcus replied. "All ships are in position. Operation Persistence begins now." Across the solar system, humanity's defense fleet moved into carefully prepared positions. They were not clustered together like the Karn expected. Instead, they were spread out in patterns that looked random but were actually precisely calculated. Every ship knew its role. Every captain understood the strategy. On the Catharn flagship, Vectar watched his tactical displays. The human fleet looked scattered and disorganized. Exactly what he expected from a species facing its first real war. He divided his own fleet into 3 attack groups. They would strike from different angles and overwhelm the humans through pure firepower. "All ships," Vectar commanded, "begin the attack. Show no mercy." The Catharn fleet surged forward. Their ships moved with predatory grace, weapons charging, ready to deliver devastating strikes. The first wave reached Earth's outer defense perimeter within minutes. The human ships there immediately began retreating. "They run," one Catharn commander reported with satisfaction. "The humans flee before us." But Marcus Webb was watching his own displays aboard the Persistence with calm focus. "Lure Group 1? Status?" "Falling back according to plan, Captain," the response came. "Enemy is pursuing, leading them towards Sector 7. Good. Maintain retreat pattern. Make it look panicked but keep the formation tight." The Catharn ships chased the retreating humans eagerly. To them, it looked like the human ships were running in fear, trying desperately to escape. The Catharn pressed their advantage, moving faster, getting closer. They did not notice they were being herded. The human ships led the Catharn through a specific route in space, past carefully positioned satellites, and through areas where asteroid debris had been subtly repositioned over the past 3 weeks. The Catharn were so focused on the chase that they did not scan their surroundings carefully. "Now," Marcus said quietly. Suddenly, the retreating human ships stopped and turned. At the same moment, dozens of hidden human fighters activated from behind asteroids and debris fields. The Catharn found themselves surrounded on 3 sides. "Fire all weapons," Marcus commanded. The coordinated attack came from every direction at once. Human railguns fired armor-piercing rounds. Missile clusters launched in predetermined patterns. Energy weapons targeted the Catharn ship's engine sections with surgical precision. The Catharn had superior shields, but they had not expected an attack from multiple angles simultaneously. 3 Catharn ships took critical damage before they could react. 2 more had their engines disabled. The rest scrambled to return fire. But the human ships were already moving, shifting positions with practiced coordination. Group 2 and 3 moved to intercept. Vectar commanded from his flagship. He was surprised but not worried. The humans had one good ambush. It would not happen again. The 2nd and 3rd Catharn attack groups moved to support their brothers. But as they advanced, they encountered the same pattern. Human ships appeared to retreat. The Catharn pursued. Then suddenly the humans would turn and attack from unexpected directions with perfect coordination. Hour after hour, the pattern continued. The Catharn would advance. The humans would fall back. Then the humans would strike and retreat again. The Catharn could not pin them down. Every time Vectar thought he had the humans trapped, they would slip away and reappear somewhere else. "They are not fighting with honor," one Catharn commander complained. "They strike and run like cowards." But Vectar was beginning to understand something disturbing. The humans were not running in fear. They were moving with purpose. Every retreat led the Catharn into another prepared position. Every attack targeted specific weak points. The humans were not panicking. They were hunting. On the Persistence, Marcus monitored the battle with satisfaction. "Rotation schedule is working perfectly. Group Alpha, return to base for crew rest and resupply. Group Beta, take over their sector. This was something the Catharn had never experienced. Human ships operated in shifts. When one group grew tired, fresh crews took over seamlessly. The pressure on the Catharn never stopped. There were no breaks, no pauses, just constant harassment from an enemy that seemed to never need rest. Admiral Rodriguez watched from Earth Command. The Catharn are starting to make mistakes. Their formation discipline is breaking down. Good, Marcus replied. They're frustrated. They expect us to either surrender or stand and fight. We're doing neither. We're wearing them down. Vectar slammed his fist against his command console. 8 hours had passed since the battle began. His fleet had destroyed only 2 human ships. But he had lost 7 of his own, and another 12 were damaged. More importantly, his warriors were exhausted. Catharn tactics relied on short, intense battles. They were built for quick strikes, not prolonged engagements. War Chief, his second officer said carefully. Perhaps we should withdraw temporarily, rest the crews, and plan a new approach. No, Vectar snarled. We do not retreat from prey. We are Catharn. We are apex predators. But even as he said it, doubt crept into his mind. He remembered the human ambassador's words, her strange smile, the data device she had left behind. He had been too angry to look at it before. Now, curiosity and growing concern made him activate the recording. Images filled his display. Early humans chasing prey across vast distances, humans working in coordinated groups, humans tracking and predicting animal behavior, humans running down prey that was faster and stronger until those animals collapsed from exhaustion. One phrase appeared on the screen in simple text. Persistence hunting. How humans became Earth's apex predator. Vectar watched as ancient humans chased a large animal for days without stopping. The animal was faster, but the humans just kept coming. When it rested, they caught up. When it ran, they followed. Hour after hour, day after day, until finally, the exhausted animal could run no more. War Chief, a panicked voice broke through his thoughts. The humans are attacking sections 4 and 9 simultaneously, and our scouts report more human ships approaching from the asteroid belt. Vectar looked at his tactical display. The human ships were everywhere, attacking in small, coordinated groups, never staying in one place, never giving his forces time to rest or regroup. And then he understood. The humans were not running away. They were not cowering. They were doing exactly what their ancestors had done for thousands of years. They were persistence hunting, and the Catharn were the prey. Vectar pulled up the monitoring data his intelligence officers had collected. What he saw made his blood run cold. The human ships were operating in perfect rotations. When one group engaged, another group was resting. When those rested ships returned, the tired ones withdrew. The humans maintained constant pressure, without ever exhausting their forces. They planned this, Vectar said quietly. From the very beginning, they planned this. He thought back to Ambassador Chen's visit 72 hours ago. She had not been negotiating. She had been buying time. Time for humanity to prepare. Time to study Catharn tactics. Time to position their forces perfectly. And he had given it to her, confident that 3 days would not matter. Incoming human strike group, a tactical officer shouted. Sector 12, dispatch the 4th Squadron to intercept, Vectar commanded. The 4th Squadron moved to engage. But by the time they arrived, the human ships had already struck their target and vanished. A Catharn supply vessel was left burning in space. The 4th Squadron returned to their position, finding nothing to fight. 10 minutes later, another alert came. Human attack in Sector 3. The pattern had become brutally clear. The humans would strike, disappear, and strike again somewhere else. The Catharn were always reacting, never attacking. They were being herded, controlled, hunted. Marcus Webb stood in the command center of the Persistence, monitoring every battle group's status. Around him, his officers worked with calm efficiency. There was no panic, no chaos, just smooth coordination between dozens of ships across millions of kilometers of space. Group Delta reports successful strike on Catharn communications relay. an officer reported, returning to base for resupply. Good. Group Epsilon. Move to position 7. Wait for my signal. Sarah Chen stood beside Marcus, watching the tactical displays. The Catharn formation is collapsing. They're pulling back into tighter defensive clusters. Exactly what we predicted, Marcus replied. They're thinking like prey now, bunching together for protection. It makes them feel safer, but it actually makes them more vulnerable to our tactics. Admiral Rodriguez's image appeared on the main screen from Earth Command. Captain Webb, Catharn fleet is attempting to withdraw to higher orbit. Are they retreating? Not retreating, Admiral. They're trying to regroup and rest, but we won't let them. Marcus activated the communications channel to all human ships. All battle groups. Maintain pressure. Do not allow the enemy time to reorganize. Remember your training. Stay coordinated. Stay patient. We are hunters, and hunters never give up. Across the human fleet, captains acknowledged the orders. Ships that had been hidden in the asteroid belt now activated and moved to cut off the Catharn withdrawal route. The Catharn found themselves blocked at every turn by fresh human forces. On the Karn flagship, exhaustion was beginning to show. Warriors who had been at their stations for over 20 hours were making mistakes. Response times were slowing. Communication was breaking down. War Chief, the second officer said desperately. We must withdraw completely. Fall back beyond the system's edge. We can return with reinforcements. For the first time in his military career, Vector considered retreat. The thought was bitter and shameful. The Karn did not retreat. They were conquerors. They were predators. But he was beginning to understand that the humans were something the Catharn had never encountered before. They were predators too. But a different kind. Not ambush hunters who struck once with overwhelming force. They were endurance hunters who wore down their prey through relentless, patient pursuit. War Chief. Multiple human ships approaching from coordinates 774, and more coming from coordinates 219. Rear sensors detecting human fighters positioning behind our formation. Vector pulled up the complete tactical picture. Human forces surrounded his fleet on all sides, not in one massive formation, but in small groups that could move independently, strike from any angle, and coordinate with perfect precision. He remembered the video the human ambassador had left for him. Ancient humans hunting together in groups, communicating across vast distances, each knowing exactly what the others would do. That same coordination was on display now, but with warships instead of primitive hunters. War Chief, what are your orders? His second officer asked. Vector made a decision that would have been unthinkable 3 days ago. Signal all ships. We are withdrawing to fallback position Gamma. Fighting withdrawal formation. The Catharn fleet began to pull back, but the humans did not let them go easily. Human ships harassed them at every point, targeting engines and weapon systems, forcing the Catharn to slow down to protect damaged vessels. Marcus watched the Catharn withdrawal with satisfaction. They're running, but they're still dangerous. Don't get overconfident. Maintain pursuit but keep safe distances. As the battle continued, something remarkable happened. A Catharn destroyer, separated from its group and surrounded by human ships, transmitted a surrender signal. It was the first time in Catharn military history that a Catharn vessel had surrendered in battle. The news spread through both fleets instantly. For the humans, it was a sign that their strategy was working. For the Catharn, it was a shock that shook their confidence even further. Vector received the report and felt something he had never experienced before in combat. Fear. Not of death, which any warrior could accept, but fear of being prey, fear of being hunted by something smarter and more patient than himself. He pulled up detailed analysis of every engagement over the past 20 hours. The pattern was undeniable. The humans had predicted every Catharn tactical response. Every time his forces moved, the humans were already positioned to counter them. It was as if the humans could read his mind. Then he realized the truth. They were not reading his mind. They were reading his patterns. The Catharn had used the same tactics for centuries, against hundreds of species. Those tactics were recorded, studied, analyzed. The humans had spent 3 weeks learning everything about Catharn warfare. They knew what the Catharn would do before the Catharn did it. "We are not fighting an inexperienced species," Vectar said quietly to his second officer. "We are fighting hunters who studied us the way our ancestors studied prey animals. They learned our behavior, our patterns, our weaknesses, and now they are using that knowledge against us. But War Chief, we are Catharn. We are the apex predators of this galaxy." Vectar looked at him with tired eyes. "We were apex predators on worlds where we were the only thinking species. The humans come from a death world, where they competed with thousands of other predators. They did not become dominant through size or strength. They became dominant through intelligence, patience, and cooperation. And those are exactly the weapons they are using against us now." Another alert sounded. More human ships approaching. The Catharn were still being pursued, still being harassed, still unable to rest. Vectar looked at the image of Earth on his display. That small blue planet had produced a species that was teaching the mighty Catharn what it meant to be hunted. He had given them a warning. They had given him something far worse. They had reminded him that in the galaxy's long history, the most dangerous predators were not the biggest or strongest. They were the ones who could think, plan, and never give up. And humans never gave up. The battle had lasted 48 hours. War Chief Vectar stood in his command chamber, staring at displays that showed a situation he had never imagined possible. His fleet, which had arrived with such confidence, was now scattered and damaged. 15 ships destroyed, 23 damaged beyond combat capability, and the rest exhausted beyond their ability to fight effectively. The humans, meanwhile, continued their relentless pressure. Fresh ships kept appearing. Coordinated strikes kept coming. The Catharn had not slept, had not rested, had not been given a single moment to recover. "War Chief," his second officer said quietly, "we cannot continue. The warriors are collapsing at their stations. Our weapon systems are overheating from constant use. If we do not withdraw completely, we will lose the entire fleet." Vectar knew he was right. The proud Catharn armada, which had conquered 400 worlds, was being systematically destroyed by a species they had dismissed as weak prey. The shame burned in his chest. But survival mattered more than pride. "Send a message to the human fleet," Vectar said slowly. The words were painful to speak. "Request a parley, under neutral terms." The second officer stared at him in shock. "War Chief, we have never requested parley as the weaker party. Never in our history." "Then we make history today," Vectar replied. "Send the message." On the Persistence, Marcus Webb received the Catharn transmission. He read it carefully, then looked at Sarah Chen. "They want to talk. Vectar himself is requesting a meeting. Do we trust it?" Admiral Rodriguez asked from Earth Command. Sarah considered the question. "The Karn values strength above all else. For Vectar to request parley means he truly understands his position. I think we can trust it. But we should meet on neutral ground with appropriate precautions." "Agreed," Marcus said. "I'll select a location." 6 hours later, a small neutral station that humanity had built for scientific research became the meeting place. The station was empty, except for the minimal crew needed to maintain it. War Chief Vectar arrived with 2 guards. Sarah Chen and Captain Marcus Webb arrived with the same. When Vectar entered the meeting chamber, Sarah was struck by how different he looked. The arrogance was gone. The predatory confidence had faded. He looked like a warrior who had learned a hard lesson. Vectar sat down across from the 2 humans. For a long moment, he simply looked at them. Really looked at them. Not as prey. Not as weak creatures to be conquered, but as something he had failed to recognize before. "Ambassador Chen," Vectar said finally. "Captain Webb, I requested this meeting to offer terms." "Terms of our surrender?" Marcus asked calmly. "No," Vectar said quietly. "Terms of ours." The words hung in the air. Sarah and Marcus exchanged glances but showed no triumph. They waited for Vectar to continue. I have commanded Catharn fleets for 30 years, Vectar continued. I have conquered 17 worlds personally. I have seen hundreds of species face our power. They all reacted the same way. They panicked. They scattered. They surrendered or died quickly. He paused. You did neither. We defended our home, Sarah said simply. No. Vectar shook his head. You did more than defend. You hunted us. You studied us like we were animals. You learned our patterns and used them against us. You coordinated your forces with precision we have never encountered. And you never stopped. Never rested. Never gave us a moment to recover. He looked directly at Sarah. You told me to study my prey carefully. I did not listen. That was my mistake. Marcus leaned forward. War Chief, what exactly are you proposing? Withdrawal of all Catharn forces from your system, immediate cessation of hostilities, recognition of Earth's sovereignty and your species' right to exist without Catharn interference. Vectar's voice was steady but humbled. In exchange, I ask only that you allow my fleet to withdraw with honor. Do not pursue us. Do not destroy us completely. Let us return to our territory and carry the message of what we learned here. And what message would that be? Sarah asked. Vectar was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. That humans are not prey. That your species possesses qualities the Catharn never encountered before. Your patience, your coordination, your ability to endure when others would break, your intelligence in warfare. He met her eyes. You are predators, Ambassador Chen, but a different kind than we have ever known. Sarah considered his words. War Chief, humanity did not want this war. We would have preferred peace. But you gave us no choice. I understand that now, Vectar replied. I thought your diplomacy was weakness. I thought your caution was fear. I was wrong. You were simply being patient, observing, learning, preparing, the way a hunter prepares before the chase. Marcus stood and walked to the viewport. Earth was visible in the distance, blue and beautiful and unharmed. If we accept these terms, will the Catharn return? Will you seek revenge once you have regrouped? No, Vectar said firmly. I will take a message to the Catharn Empire. A message about Earth and humanity. Other Catharn need to understand what I learned, that there are species in this galaxy we should not challenge. Species who are dangerous not because of their weapons or numbers, but because of how they think, how they work together, how they never give up. Sarah turned to Marcus. They had discussed this possibility during the battle planning. They had known that if humanity survived, they would need to establish their position clearly, not through cruelty or revenge, but through demonstrated strength that demanded respect. We accept your terms, War Chief, Sarah said. Your fleet may withdraw. We will not pursue. But understand this clearly. Earth is protected. Humanity is not a target. If the Karn or any other species threatens us again, we will respond the same way. We will defend our home with everything we have. I understand, Vectar said. And I believe you. I have seen what your species can do when threatened. Marcus returned to the table. War Chief, before you go, I want to make sure you understand something important. Humans prefer peace. We prefer cooperation and friendship. But our preference for peace should never be mistaken for inability to fight. We are diplomats first, but we remember what our ancestors were. We remember how to hunt. Vectar stood slowly. Captain Webb, I spent 2 days watching your tactics, watching how human ships moved together with perfect coordination across vast distances, how you rotated your crews to maintain pressure without exhaustion, how you predicted every move my forces would make. He paused. It reminded me of the videos Ambassador Chen showed me. Ancient humans hunting prey across endless plains. Working together. Never stopping. Just always coming. That is what you did to my fleet. Yes, Marcus said simply. That is exactly what we did. Then I have one final question, Vectar said. In all the species the Catharn have encountered, we have been the apex predators. We have been at the top. But watching you fight, I wonder, on your world, Earth, were humans always the dominant species? Sarah smiled slightly. No, War Chief. When humans first evolved, we were not the biggest or strongest or fastest creatures on our planet. We were surrounded by predators that could kill us easily. We survived through intelligence, cooperation, and persistence. Over thousands of years, we became the dominant species, not because we were the best fighters, but because we were the best hunters. We learned to work together better than any other species on our world. We learned to think and plan and never give up. Those skills kept us alive on a dangerous planet. And those same skills let us reach the stars. Vector absorbed this information. Then Earth is a death world that produced a species of persistent hunters who work together perfectly. The galaxy has never seen anything like you before. Perhaps, Sarah replied. But War Chief, remember this. Humanity survived by being adaptable. We can be hunters when we need to be. But we can also be friends, allies, and partners. We would prefer to build relationships based on respect and mutual benefit. That option is always available. Vector nodded slowly. I will remember, Ambassador. And I will carry your message across the galaxy. The Catharn will not threaten Earth again. I give you my oath as a warrior. The meeting ended. Vector returned to his flagship and gave the order to withdraw. The Catharn fleet, battered and exhausted, left Earth's solar system. They jumped to hyperspace and disappeared among the stars. On the Persistence, Marcus and Sarah watched them go. Do you think he'll keep his word? Marcus asked. Yes, Sarah replied. The Catharn value strength above everything else. We demonstrated strength they respect. More importantly, we demonstrated something they fear, intelligence that can predict and counter their tactics, endurance they cannot match, and coordination they cannot break. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the main screen from Earth. All Catharn vessels have left the system. Earth is secure. He paused, then smiled. Well done, everyone. Humanity has won its first interstellar conflict. Across the human fleet, tired crews celebrated. They had faced an enemy with superior numbers and firepower, and they had won through strategy, patience, and teamwork. Marcus turned to Sarah. They gave us one final warning. We reminded them we were never prey. Sarah nodded, looking out at Earth below. And now the galaxy knows. Humanity is not a target. We are not victims. We are the species that walked out of Africa and conquered our entire planet through persistence and intelligence. We reached the stars carrying those same qualities. Any species that threatens us will learn what the Catharn learned. We are hunters, we are survivors, and we never give up. In the weeks that followed, Vector kept his promise. He traveled to Catharn territory and shared what he had learned. The story spread through the Catharn Empire and beyond. Humans, the small species from the blue planet called Earth, had defeated the mighty Catharn not through strength but through strategy, endurance, and perfect coordination. Other aggressive species in the galaxy heard the story and reconsidered their plans for Earth. Some saw opportunity, most saw warning, and humanity, having proven it could defend itself, returned to its preferred occupation. Exploring, learning, building, making friends among the stars. But the galaxy remembered. Earth was not prey. Humans were not victims. They were the persistent hunters who never stopped coming. And that made all the difference. The end.